Good afternoon. My name is Brian Rubenstein, and I have the privilege of being asked by the Hodous family to help facilitate this memorial service and celebration. I've been friends with Kerry Hodous for nearly 60 years and knew his father not just as a family friend, but also as an employer. I worked as a tennis pro and front desk personnel at his tennis club, both in the 1970s and again in the 80s. It was the greatest and most active club of its time, and I have many fond memories of my time spent there, not the least of which was the fact that I met my wife of 30 years while she was employed at Mill Creek. I guess that's still a pretty fond memory. I can still close my eyes and see Lefty competing on court 11, the so-called show court, to the delight of onlookers and passerbys. I can also see him smashing a wood racket into splinters or reconfiguring a metal racket into an unusable form when things weren't going in his favor. For he was a fighter and a competitor his entire life. I would now like to ask you to join me in the recitation of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Albert Meyer Hodous was born on July 4th, 1929, to Nathan and Rose Hodous, but everyone knew him as Lefty. He was the youngest of 5 children, being predeceased by his sisters, Lillian, Bessie, and Celia. His brother Carl, now 94, still lives in California. Lefty grew up in the Kinsman area. Very early on, he realized that he loved sports and was recognized as having innate athletic ability. By high school, he excelled at baseball, football, and basketball, and was considered by many to be the best and best known athlete of his time in Cleveland, gracing the pages of the Plain Dealer and the Cleveland Press on many occasions. His senior year, Lefty was all-state in basketball and led John Adams to the city championship. He received numerous scholarship offers from colleges all over the country in all 3 major sports, and eventually accepted a football scholarship to the Ohio State University as a quarterback. But after only 1 year, Lefty transferred to Western Reserve back in Cleveland, where he received a full scholarship to play basketball. After college, he was drafted by the baseball Pittsburgh Pirates and played first base on their minor league team in Batavia, New York. By then, he was already married to his high school sweetheart, Marilyn Hammer, and had a daughter, Rana. Missing his wife and daughter in Cleveland, Lefty left professional baseball behind and returned home to join his brother Carl in the family heating and air conditioning business. From then, the family grew to include 2 sons, Kerry and David. Al remained active in sports, playing JRC basketball and softball, where he's in their Hall of Fame. In 1966, he was the city racquetball champ. In the late 60s, he learned tennis and amazingly won the first tournament that he ever entered. This might have helped lead him to his next endeavor. for when his brother decided to move to California, the family business was sold. Lefty was approached by Eddie Katofsky to be a partner in a major indoor tennis facility. Mill Creek Racquet Club opened on October 14, 1972, and was an unprecedented success. Lefty served as the managing partner and was the face of the operation. The club enjoyed tremendous activity over the next 10 years, having almost full bookings from 6 a.m. to midnight on 17 tennis courts. Lefty sold his interest in the club in 1981 and devoted much time to playing tennis and golf. Well, by the way, he was a 4 handicap. A new love interest came into Al's life in 1990 when he met his second wife, Maisie. They were fixed up on a blind date by a mutual friend, and after their first date, they saw each other every night until they eventually married. They were married for 21 years. Maisie was a wonderful wife and caregiver. Her amazing love and care throughout many years of illnesses helped him enjoy many more years than anyone thought possible. Lefty's strong physical constitution and competitive nature might have also helped him survive so many major health events. As active as he was in his earlier years, in his declining years when he was faced with so many challenges, he looked forward to simple things. Waking up every morning, sitting and having breakfast, reading the paper. He loved and looked forward to life and was blessed with the ability to celebrate even the simplest of things. Lefty struggled mightily with a lot, but he retained a hopeful, positive attitude. May his love and zest for life be an inspiration for us all, and may his memory be a blessing. I would now like to call on David Hodous to offer some remembrances of his father.
I'm going to read this. Can you hear me okay? A little louder? I'm just going to read it because I'm not good at ad-libbing. It feels so weird losing 2 parents so close together, so surreal. I'm sure many my age, and certainly Carrie's and Rana's ages, it's probably more normal to have no parents, but this is new to us, and it's very hard. Sorry about that. I threw it. I still feel the need to call them and see how they are. In Dad's case, how he's feeling. Mom, for a book to recommend. Her regular inquiries I miss about Jeremy's progress and how he's doing. Feels so strange to try to speak about a whole life. A childhood, a kid with parents, a young man, then on to a husband and father, and in his case a husband again, then eventually a senior, and finally his death. But I'm going to try. My dad as a young man growing up with sisters and brothers, and I was closest to my Uncle Carl and his girls, was the baby, and I'm sure he was his parents' delight. I'm not sure about his elementary years, but into high school he was the star of the family. I'm repeating some things. John Adams, 3 or 4 sports all-star, a big man on campus, and even in the city. He made his folks very proud. We have articles to show for it. And as he went on, we heard he got 21 full-ride scholarships onto Ohio State as a freshman quarterback, after 1 year to Western Reserve for basketball, and finally drafted by the Pirates farm team. Sports was my dad's life. After baseball, he played softball and racquetball, competed competitively and won racquetball titles in either Cleveland or Ohio. I'm not sure. The story sometimes change. And after eventually tennis, where he built Mill Creek Racquet Club, which boasted the largest indoor tennis club in the world at the time. I wrote, mind you, while I say boasted, it was usually him who told the stories, and they often changed. After Mill Creek, golf, which he was a true for. Suffice it to say, he loved competition and he took his sports very serious. After high school, he married his high school sweetheart, his first Marilyn, and my dad, the husband-father, began. We lacked for nothing. Carrie, Ron, and I were a few years apart, so our experiences were all different. He wasn't always the greatest father or husband, but he did what he knew, probably what he was taught. I loved the latter years as his son the most. That's when I got to know him best. We shared sports, tennis, golf, and the love of Cleveland teams, and I imagine I was able to beat him in a round of golf as he approached his 80s. Our relationship was great. I understood my dad, and he was real proud of me and my accomplishments. We eventually came to the years where he met his second Marilyn, his Maisie, which he loved very much. We are very thankful for our Maisie. She loved my dad for 27 years, and he loved her back. He would write her love letters in his own handwriting, stating his care, and she would cherish them. Not a lot of glorious travel years, but Maisie was his love. She took great care of him, a house with affection. Maisie in Dad's latter years became so much more to us and to our dad, an excellent caregiver. I can't imagine a man going through more, and Maisie was there through it all. Every doctor, every pill, every oxygen bottle, Maisie was our savior, and we, his children, will forever be grateful. I had his care for one day, and it tapped me. She had years. Maisie, I am glad he and we had you. My dad was my friend. As a senior, he loved picnics at my house, how he loved a good hot dog or some ribs, hanging with us and our grandkids. My daughter just stated that my dad always had a smile. When you would see him, he never complained, never would be negative, always had hope. He loved life. Whenever I would see him, he would ask if I had enough work. Telling me secrets from his knowledge of running businesses, he would say, "Charge more the busier you get." He loved that I did construction and I shared his company name as a sheet metal worker. Dad was so often really with one recovery or another. But for the most part, he stayed positive. He looked forward to getting home to his Maisie and his dogs. It should be said that Maisie never missed a day at the hospital, sometimes 3 to 5 hours a day. His final return from a hospital was going to be at my house, as I made my dining room his hospice. His heart was too weak, and he lasted one day and died in my presence. He was so looking forward to coming home, he told me, quote, "I made him very happy." I will miss my dad. Not the hospital visits, not the illnesses, but his love and friendship and his indomitable spirit. He was my dad, and he will be remembered and missed.
I'd now like to call on Lefty's daughter, Rana, to offer a reading in memory of her father.
First, I have to say thank you to my brothers and Maisie for making it so much easier to be out of town and know always that my dad's needs were always looked after and that he was loved and taken care of. And I have to thank you so much for that. Also, I won't repeat all the story again, but one memory I have to share was when I was in the 4th grade. Miss Lash had us choose a family member and write something about him. So I wrote about Lefty, and I said, my dad is Lefty, and he's a sheep man. And she came to me and she said, that's not his name. His name is not Lefty. And what's a sheep man? I said, well, he's Lefty and he's a sheep metal man. And I went back to my mom and I said, I don't get it. What did I do wrong here? She said, well, his name is Albert and he's a sheet metal man. So that was when I learned his name and I learned what he did. I would like to share. David, it went away. Sorry. I would like to share, when I was younger, I don't know if any of you remember the Wiley Theater, and Jerry Leonard plays, and I was in The King and I, and I cried on stage because it was such a sad play, and since then I've seen it many, many times, but every time there is one song that always made me think of my dad. And I just want to read and not sing the lyrics to this song. This is a man who thinks with his heart. His heart is not always wise. This is a man who stumbles and falls, but this is a man who tries. This is a man you'll forgive and help and protect as long as you live. He will not always say what you would have him say, but now and then he'll say something wonderful. The thoughtless things he'll do will hurt and worry you, and then all at once he'll do something wonderful. He had 1,000 dreams that won't come true. You know that he believes in them, and that's enough for you. You'll always go along, defend him when he's wrong, and tell him when he's strong. He is wonderful. He'll always need your love, and so he'll get your love. A man who needs your love can be wonderful. Thanks. Bye, Daddy.
Ask you to please rise for the memorial prayer. El mole rachamim, sholchein bamramim, hamsei menucha, nuchona al kanfei ha-shchina, b'ma'alos kedoshim utorim, b'zohar harokia mazhirim, es nishmas Avram ben Natan, shahalach la'olamo, began Eden tehei menuchaso, lachein Baal harachamim, yatztirehu v'seitzer kinafav la'olamim, v'yitzror bitzror hachayim es nishmaso, Adonai hu nachalaso, v'yanuach al mish kovo, v'shalom, v'namar, Amen. O God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant true rest upon the wings of the divine presence, in the exalted spheres of the holy and pure, who shine as the resplendence of the firmament to the soul of Avram ben Natan, who has gone on to his supernal world. May his place of rest be in Gan Eden. Therefore, may the all-merciful one shelter him with the cover of his wings forever, and bind his soul in the bond of life. The Lord is his heritage. May he rest in his resting place in peace. And let us say, Amen. Albert Hodous is survived by his wife Marilyn, Maisie, children Carrie, Rana, and David, grandchildren Jeremy, Lauren, Jonathan, Benjamin, Daniel, Jessica, Jennifer, Samuel, Lindsay, Jessica, and Danielle, and brother Carl Hodous. Interment will be at Mount Olive Cemetery. The family will receive friends at the home of David and Pat Hodous, 2650 Shaker Road, not Shaker Boulevard, in Cleveland Heights, after the burial until 8 p.m. this evening only. Contributions in Lefty's memory are suggested to your own favorite charities. Could you please remain seated while the family exit the chapel? We have the pallbearers come forward now.